I am the eldest daughter of a top-tier medical family, and I became the wife of the business genius Ethan after saving him from an accident. 6 years later, his long-cherished first love returned. He asked me to prepare for our wedding anniversary, yet he ruthlessly harmed our son. Andy has special immune genes, his bone marrow can cure Maya's illness, and this is accumulating virtue. Don't put on that sour face. If it weren't for your interference back then, Maya would have been my wife long ago. I held my son, who was kept alive by machines, humming nursery rhymes over and over, while he spent all day inseparable from his first love. The child died after enduring immense torment, and my heart died with him. I found the head of the Liu family. Andy is gone, the life-saving debt from back then is repaid, and I have no further ties with the Liu family. As all the top doctors stood before me shaking their heads, my heart turned completely cold. Standing outside the ward, my body went limp, and my back slammed heavily against the wall. Ethan's grandfather, Leonard, rushed forward, grabbing the lead doctor's arm with a trembling voice. How can he not be saved? Doesn't Andy's special gene resist risks? Think of another way. The doctor gravely withdrew his hand. Mr. Leonard, Miss Celia, we've done our best. The young master was forcibly extracted of bone marrow from both legs without general anesthesia. The intense pain caused multiple organ failure, and by the time he arrived, the optimal rescue window had passed. This procedure was too hasty and brutal, with no consideration for the child's tolerance. I suddenly looked up at Leonard. Grandpa, did you hear that? Andy was tortured to death in agony. Ethan didn't even use anesthesia on the child. How could he be so cruel? Beast. That's his own son. Leonard trembled with rage, blood surging to his throat. He instantly aged 10 years and fainted straight away. I stood guard outside the ward. After Leonard woke up, he dismissed everyone and, with red eyes, said to me, Celia, the Liu family has wronged you. I beg you, for the sake of our century-old enterprise, give the Liu family one more chance. Before he finished, the butler stammered at the door, Madam, the master asked me to bring nourishing soup and said the young master's genes are special. Donating bone marrow accumulates virtue, and you should take the child to thank him tomorrow. Bastard. The Liu family will be ruined by him. I let out a cold laugh. You heard it too. Saving him back then repaid the childhood favor. Now the debt is cleared, and I won't meddle in Liu family affairs anymore. Leonard slumped down, too exhausted to speak. The Liu family's core medical collaborations rely entirely on my family's Chin Biological Research Institute. You know well that your family's monopoly in the high-end medical market depends on the cutting-edge technology and exclusive reagents we provide. When Ethan was attacked back then, I saved him to repay the childhood favor. When I was kidnapped, Ethan accidentally saved me. I married into the Liu family with my family's medical resources precisely to use Andy's special genes to stabilize the Liu family's foundation. This was agreed upon long ago. Regret flashed in Leonard's eyes. Back then, he had a marriage agreement with Maya, but your Chin family's technology was too important. I forced you two together. Celia, I beg you, for the sake of our collaboration, give the Liu family one more chance. I recalled Andy's hand clutching my hem as he was pushed into the operating room, his little face contorted in pain without a sound, and his eyes finally losing their sparkle. My heart felt like it was being repeatedly cut by a dull knife, the pain nearly suffocating. The favor is repaid, I said with a trembling but unusually firm voice. Back then, it was you who, out of old affection, didn't completely cut off Maya's hopes and secretly sent her abroad. Now she returns and turns everything upside down. It's a hidden danger you left yourselves. Andy's first 7 days haven't passed yet, I'll wait another 7 days. After 7 days, the Chin Research Institute will terminate all collaborations, and I'll have no ties with the Liu family. With that, I staggered out of the ward, supporting myself against the wall. The Liu family ultimately placed Andy's remains in the family ancestral hall, preserved in a specially designed constant temperature chamber. They knew Andy's status was special. Even in death, this body-carrying hope had to be enshrined. Leonard hired monks to chant scriptures day and night beside it. For these 7 days, I stayed by the constant temperature chamber without leaving, repeatedly touching the glass frame, gazing at Andy's peacefully lying little face. as if he were just asleep and would open his eyes to look at me the next second. Ironically, Ethan never came once. The servant said he spent these days immersed with Maya at wedding planning companies, personally finalizing everything from the hem length of the custom wedding dress to each dish on the banquet menu, even sampling each bottle of perfume for the party favors. That level of attentiveness was something Andy and I never received. I was numbly listening to the monks chanting when the butler hurried in. "Madam, the master asks you to return to the villa to help Miss Maya select wedding jewelry, saying you have good taste." I softly said to Andy in the chamber, "Be good, Andy, Mommy will go and come back soon to accompany you." Holding back tears, I arrived at the villa Ethan bought for Maya. I knew clearly that Maya's jewelry was already ordered. Ethan was just finding ways to humiliate me. Pushing open the master bedroom door, a glaring scene hit my eyes. Ethan was holding Maya, leaning against the headboard, his tie hung loosely, Maya's nightgown slipped off her shoulder, and the two were huddled together, whispering and laughing, exuding lingering ambiguity. Seeing me enter, Ethan glanced up with a tone full of sarcasm. "Finally willing to come back? It was just taking some bone marrow from Andy to save Maya, what's the big deal? Do you have to run to my dad crying and making a scene? Can't you stop being so dramatic?" My heart felt like it was torn open, extracting bone marrow, tortured to death, in his mouth. It became, "What's the big deal?" I gazed at the indulgence in his eyes for Maya and the indifference toward me and Andy, feeling a chill all over. How could Ethan's heart be so ruthless? But he clearly wasn't like this before. When Andy was just learning to walk, he was so nervous he wouldn't leave his side. If the child fell, he'd hold him and rub for a long time, heartbrokenly cursing the floor for being too hard. Even the baby walker was one he researched extensively, drew designs himself, and had craftsmen customize, saying the ones outside were unsafe. When Andy got a cough from snacks causing internal heat, he heard from an old Chinese doctor that pear soup boiled with morning dew could soothe the throat. Before dawn, he drove to a suburban orchard, squatted under trees to collect dew, and came back to personally boil it into pear soup to feed the child. But ever since Maya returned, everything changed. I stared at Maya on the bed, full of coquettish charm. She suddenly cooed, "Sister's gaze is so scary, my heart is starting to hurt again. Ethan, touch it." Ethan provocatively glanced at me, reached out to hook Maya's chin. "Touching the chest is boring, I'll rub other places for you." The indecent scene unfolded before me, the redwood bed beneath creaking harshly. "This bed was the one we chose when we married," he said. The wood grain resembled phoenixes in harmony, symbolizing a lifetime of stability. What a tremendous irony. Maya panted and pushed him. "Ethan, don't let sister watch, make her go out." "Okay." Ethan grabbed something nearby and hurled it at my face. "Get out, you're annoying to look at." What landed at my feet was a lace bra. I glanced at it, turned, and walked out the door, my face expressionless. Because my tears had long dried up for Andy. Immediately from the room came Maya's coquettish pants. "Ethan, tell me, am I better or is she?" Ethan's voice was frivolous. "She's just a stone that can't be warmed, how could she be as endearing as you?" I sneered inwardly, this pair of scoundrels is truly a match. The butler blocked the hallway, his tone arrogant. "The master said Miss Maya was forced away by you back then, crying until her eyes were injured. From now on, you're responsible for brewing her eye-protecting medicine." I tugged at the corner of my mouth. Now even a servant could order me around. But brewing medicine, what of it? My heart was already dead, whatever I did was just numb actions. I didn't respond and followed him to the pharmacy. Anyway, only a few days left. After brewing this dose, there would be no ties between us. 7 days, I'll endure 7 more days. Once Andy's first 7 days pass, I'll take everything from the Chin family and leave, never looking back. The eye medicine was wrapped in gauze, with a bloody smell inside. The family doctor Miles stood beside, clutching a belt, his tone ice cold. "This is a specially made medicine, extremely precious. It must be stirred at constant temperature for 12 hours without any error. If you dare slack off, watch out, I'll whip you with the belt." I stared at him intently. It was this doctor, bribed by Maya, who personally performed the bone marrow extraction on Andy without anesthesia. Seeing my action half a beat slow, Miles raised his hand and whipped my back with the belt. "What are you spacing out for? Miss Maya's eyes can't afford delay. If Ethan finds out, you'll suffer." My back instantly burned with pain. I gritted my teeth and held the stirring rod. To completely settle the grudges and not let Ethan feel I was oppressing him with family power, over these years, apart from business matters, I rarely contacted my family. Now, I could only endure the pain, stirring the liquid over and over. In 12 hours, my arms ached so much I could barely lift them. My back was crisscrossed with bloody welts from the belt, bloodstains sticking close to skin. The slightest movement caused piercing pain. Finally finishing the brewing, Miles nodded toward the study, shaking the belt in his hand. "Carry it in, they're waiting inside. Be respectful in your attitude." The study was Ethan's forbidden territory, even I wasn't allowed to enter casually before. Now, Maya was inside posing coquettishly, while he held a brush sketching her. He glanced at the bloodstains on me, frowning and cursing, playing the pity card with self-inflicted wounds again? "Andy is unlucky to have a mom like you." I couldn't be bothered to look at him, he had no right to mention Andy. He personally scooped the medicine to feed Maya, his tone venomous. "If it weren't for you forcing me to marry you with the Chin family's power, Maya and I would have been together long ago. Andy's eyes have special self-healing cells that can repair Maya's eye disease. Using his eyes to treat her is just right to atone for your sin of breaking us up back then." "What did you say?" My blood instantly froze, nails digging deeply into my palms. "You used Andy's eyes in the medicine? So that bloody sweet smell was Andy's blood. The medicine I brewed for 12 hours was made from my son's eyes." Grief smashed into my heart like a boulder. Ethan wouldn't even spare Andy's eyes after death, forcing me, his mother, to personally boil them. Watching him carefully feed Maya the medicine, I felt the man before me was no longer the father who coaxed children. He had turned into a demon. Ethan sneered, "It's just a pair of eyes. Andy has a special constitution with regenerative genes, the eyes can regrow later. Who are you putting on this deadpan face for?" I trembled with rage, rushing to knock over the medicine bowl, but he kicked me in the stomach. The intense pain made me collapse to the ground, vomiting a mouthful of blood. "Ew, so dirty." Maya coquettishly hid in Ethan's arms. "Go bring Andy over so my child can absorb some of his genetic aura." Ethan kicked my back. I glanced at Maya's slightly protruding belly, so they had a child long ago. Suddenly, torrential rain poured outside, raindrops smashing against the glass like Andy's silent cries. I let the rainwater flood in from the open door, soaking my bloodstains, as memory surged. Back then, when I was kidnapped by a rival company, it was passerby Ethan who risked his life to save me. Later, when his company faced a technical crisis, I mobilized the Chin Research Institute's core resources to help him through it. But after the victory banquet, he suffered a retaliatory attack, gravely injured and on the brink of death. Doctors said he couldn't be saved. It was I who stayed by his bedside, using the family's secret conditioning regimen, to pull him back from the gates of hell. When he woke, he caught me preparing herbs. He held my hand and said, "Celia, marry me, I'll be good to you for life." Seeing the gratitude in his eyes, I nodded. After marriage, we indeed lived like in a romance novel. He was gentle and considerate toward me, except for a few days of depression when he first learned Maya went abroad. Otherwise, he was impeccably attentive. During my pregnancy, he scoured domestically and abroad for rare supplements. After Andy's birth, no matter how busy, he told bedtime stories every night. Sitting beside, watching him read picture books to the child, I always thought this was the perfect ending in a novel. But I didn't expect they never truly broke off. They just sent Maya abroad to hide. Now she returns, crying to Ethan, accusing me of forging life-saving evidence back then, using Chin family power to force her away, even trying to harm her to monopolize the young madam's position. Maya's face naturally carried a pitiful expression. Ethan lost all reason upon seeing her tears, forgetting all past affections. He stormed into the room angrily, in front of the servants, yanking open my collar. "Back then, you played this pity trick, letting me see you brewing and feeding me medicine, making me mistakenly think you saved me. Don't you love pretending? Today, let everyone see you like this. How weren't you ashamed when harming Maya? How thick-skinned when stealing her position? His gaze was vicious. Come, strip her clothes, let the whole household see this scheming, venomous woman. I screamed in agony, Ethan. I'm your lawfully wedded wife, how can you treat me like this? Ethan sneered, wife? My wife is only Maya. You're just a thief who schemed to rise. Andy is unlucky 8 lifetimes to have a mom like you. Stop pretending to be wronged, the suffering Maya endured abroad, I'll make you repay double. Once she enters, I'll transfer Andy's custody to her. From then on, Andy is her child, with no relation to you. He slammed the door and left, leaving a room full of servants, their gazes like bugs sticking to me. Seeing this, the butler rubbed his hands and approached, reaching to touch my face. Miss Celia is indeed different, her skin is so tender. With him leading, others lost all restraint, filthy hands reaching over. My throat screamed hoarse. In the struggle, my body was pulled black and blue, warm blood seeping below. I didn't understand, what did I do wrong? I'm his wife, Andy's mother, the one who exhausted resources to save him, how could he allow others to ravage me like this? At that moment, the last bit of warmth in my heart completely cooled. In the ancestral hall, the monk guarding Andy's remains was angrily dismissed by Leonard for not watching the child well. I sat by the chamber, fingertips gently stroking Andy's closed eyes on the glass, singing his favorite lullaby over and over, but those eyes would never open to look at me again. Halfway through singing, the butler's nauseating face appeared at the door again. His tone impatient, Madam, the master wants you back immediately. Miss Maya says her eyes itch after drinking the medicine, go check. I didn't move, just staring at Andy's pale little face. Seeing this, the butler rushed over in a few steps to grab my arm. Don't be shameless, Ethan is waiting. I suddenly looked up, my gaze ice cold. Get lost. He was stunned by my roar, then grinned ferociously. Still dare to be fierce? Wait till the master deals with you properly. With that, he turned and left, his footsteps especially piercing in the empty ancestral hall. I hugged the chamber again, pressing my face against the cold glass, tears silently falling. Andy, Mommy will sing with you one last time. After singing, Mommy will make those people pay. The butler dragged me to the osmanthus garden where Andy and I lived. In the courtyard, Maya was clutching her belly, wiping tears. Seeing me enter, she cried out, Sister, I know you hate me, but the child in my belly is innocent. Ethan grabbed my hair, dragging me under the osmanthus tree, anger nearly erupting. Look at what you've done. The Chin family has practiced medicine for generations, yet you use such lowly witchcraft to harm people. I stared at the cloth doll just dug up under the tree, with Maya's birthday written on it, its belly full of silver needles. My mind buzzed, this wasn't my doing at all. No wonder Maya has been having nightmares lately, saying something under the tree is harming the child. Luckily Dr. Miles discovered it early and dug up the roots to find this filthy thing. Ethan kicked me. You venomous woman. Why can you have Andy, but Maya can't have a child? If anything happens to the child in her belly, I'll make you pay with your life. Maya secretly signaled Miles, softly asking, Dr. Miles, what should we do now? Miles pretended to inspect, gravely saying, this witchcraft evil has seeped into the soil, the tree must be chopped, and the entire courtyard thoroughly disinfected and burned, or it will affect Miss Maya's pregnancy. No. I lunged to hug the trunk. This courtyard has Andy's toys, his drawings, can't burn them. Ethan slapped me hard, making my mouth bleed. You reap what you sow. If not for your evil, how would Andy's things be implicated? Burning is good, anyway. Andy will recognize Maya as Mom later. This rundown courtyard is useless. I blankly watched the workers push down the osmanthus tree, branches smashing to the ground with a dull thud. This tree was airshipped from the south especially because Andy said he liked the osmanthus fragrance, at Ethan's insistence. When he planted it himself, he smiled and said, when Andy grows up, we'll use these osmanthus flowers to make cakes. Now the tree is down, promises shattered, and my last bit of longing trampled into the mud by them. Maya weakly leaned in Ethan's arms. Sister, I really don't want this, but thinking of the nightmare where the child is pricked by needles, I can't sleep all night. You're a mother too, how can you be so cruel to an unborn child? Scorpion-hearted thing, the Liu family can't tolerate a venomous woman like you. Ethan's gaze was ice-cold. Maya secretly signaled Miles again. He immediately grabbed the gasoline can from the corner. This evil must be rooted out with fierce fire. Saying that, he splashed gasoline on the pavilion, lighter clicking, flames instantly licking the curtains, blazing up. I watched Andy's toys and corner-piled blocks swallowed by flames, suddenly laughing aloud. Ethan, you even burned my last bit of longing to ashes. The butler brought a bowl of medicine. Ethan took it, pinched my chin, and force-fed it. A woman like you doesn't deserve more children. This medicine will cut off that thought completely. Reflect on your sins. Drilling pain came from my lower abdomen. I curled up on the ground, blood quickly staining my skirt. Ethan was stunned, a complex flash in his eyes, then sneered, "This is your retribution for harming Maya. I told you to go to the old house and bring Andy, you dare disobey? Don't think hiding with the old man makes it fine, he's just deceived by you, I know your character best." I struggled to stand, slapping him hard. Andy is already dead. Ethan laughed maniacally as if hearing the biggest joke, then choked my neck, lifting me. "Celia, you're crazy? Cursing your own son. Andy's greatest misfortune this life is having a mom like you." He turned, picked up Maya, and walked out of the fire without looking back, leaving me in the thick smoke. Finally, a maid couldn't bear it, helped me to the servants' room, let me bathe, and found her clothes for me to change into. These days I barely closed my eyes, too exhausted to hold on. I lay on her bed and fainted into sleep. After who knows how long, the maid Yara gently pushed me. "Madam, the master wants to see you." "What's wrong?" My mind was heavily foggy. Yara hesitated, finally stammering, "Miss Maya miscarried." I pushed open the door. A heavy bloody smell hit me. Ethan rushed over with red eyes, somehow holding a fruit knife, slashing viciously at me. My cheek instantly split open, a strand of hair cut by the blade. He was stunned, then cursed viciously, "Bitch. It must be your doing, using those dirty tricks to make Maya lose the child." I glanced at his open shirt collar, then at the casually discarded women's underwear on the ground, suddenly laughing. "Can't control your lower body yourself, yet blame me when something happens? You dare laugh." He trembled with anger. "I just took some bone marrow from Andy to save Maya, dug his eyes to treat her illness, yet you ruthlessly make me lose my child with Maya." My blood instantly froze. I glared at him incredulously. "Andy is your son too. You feel for Maya's child, but never asked if Andy was in pain?" Ethan's gaze dodged. At that moment, Maya on the bed cried out in pain, his gaze immediately hardening. "Andy has a special constitution, this injury is nothing. When I started my business, my injuries were worse, boys should endure some hardship. You're Miss Celia, with so many medical resources, can't you even heal this minor injury? I told you to bring Andy over, you make excuses, I see you deliberately don't want him to recognize me as dad." He spat accusations, as if he wasn't the one who personally harmed his son. And I, the mother desperately protecting the child, became the unforgivable sinner. "Ethan, my belly hurts so much, bled a lot, am I dying?" Maya deliberately glanced my way, grabbing Ethan's arm and shrieking. Ethan immediately panicked, holding her tightly. "No, Maya, you're so good, you'll be fine." He turned to me, gaze sinister. "Didn't you say the Chen family has life-saving special medicine? Go get your family heirloom to nourish Maya." Before I reacted, 2 bodyguards rushed from the shadows to hold me. Ethan, knife in hand, eyes bloodshot, approached. "Going to get it now won't make it, since no special medicine, use your blood instead. Isn't Chen blood the most precious? Perfect to nourish Maya." The cold blade sliced skin, intense pain made me scream heartrendingly. At that moment, a thunderbolt exploded outside, striking the villa's lightning rod, sparks flying. Dark clouds instantly covered the sky, gale whipping raindrops against glass like heaven's roar. Ethan subconsciously retreated a step, panic flashing on his face, then spat viciously. "Count yourself lucky. Next time, I'll bankrupt the Chin family completely. He had people drag me out the villa door like trash. Just at the entrance, I saw old man Leonard hurrying with bodyguards. Seeing me covered in blood, the elder trembled with heartache. My vision blackened and I fainted. Waking again, I was in a private hospital, wounds carefully bandaged. The old man sat by the bed, seeming aged 10 years overnight. He gripped my hand tightly. Celia, Grandpa was wrong, shouldn't have let you marry into the Liu family to suffer this. Go home, don't see Ethan again. I gazed at the sunlight filtering through the window, vaguely feeling the family convoy was coming. This time, I was truly leaving this place stained with Andy's blood and my tears. Outside the Liu old house, the family convoy was already parked full. Bodyguards stood in formation straight. Seeing me exit the gate, they immediately approached, bowing in unison, escorting the young miss home. The old man stood behind me holding Andy's urn, voice choked. Child, Grandpa brings Andy to see you off on your last journey. I nodded, my gaze falling on the hurrying Ethan and Maya. Ethan was still roaring in fury. Celia, have you caused enough trouble? Couples don't hold overnight grudges. It was just making you suffer a bit. Now you call your family to pressure. What do you want? Shut up. The old man trembled with anger, raising his hand to slap him. You ungrateful wolf. How did the Liu family raise a beast like you? Ethan was stunned by the slap, then sneered, old thing, you dare hit me? Celia must be instigated by you. She hid Andy to threaten me, just doesn't want me with Maya. Maya inched forward, pretending weakness. Grandpa Leonard, don't be angry, Ethan and I truly love each other, please fulfill us. The old man didn't bother looking at her, taking files from a bodyguard and smashing them on Ethan's head. Look yourself. Andy's autopsy report. To treat this woman's eyes, you dug out Andy's corneas. To please her, you let the butler lead people to ravage Celia. You force-fed her sterilization soup, slashed her body with a knife. You forgot who pulled you back from death's door? It was Celia who guarded you for dozens of days, using family secret recipes to save you. You forgot what you said when proposing? You said you'd be good to her for life. Ethan then noticed the urn in the old man's arms, with Andy's photo on it. His face instantly paled, body shaking. Andy? What exactly happened? Didn't Andy go to the old house? How could he? I looked at his panicked face, feeling immense irony. Only now did this man perhaps truly realize he had personally destroyed not only my life but also the child he once cherished most. And I could finally turn and leave this place stained with blood and tears, returning to my true home. Seeing the matter couldn't be hidden, Maya's eyes scanned around panicked, trying to slip into the crowd unnoticed. Bodyguards immediately pressed her down. The old man trembled with anger, raising his hand to slap her face. You vixen. It's you who bewitched Ethan to kill Andy, you who ruined Celia's life. A venomous woman like you should go to hell. Maya screamed and struggled. Ethan, save me. I just miscarried, I'm dying. Ethan rushed over, pushing away the bodyguards. Enough. Don't hit her. He blocked in front of Maya, roaring at the old man. Maya is the one I love, what right do you have to hit her? Dr. Miles said her eye disease must use Andy's eyes, her heart condition needs rest. I did this for her good, and to accumulate merit for Andy. Andy has a special constitution, those cells will regenerate soon, just treat it as a meeting gift for Maya. What's wrong? He was still stubborn. These days I've been busy preparing the wedding, but didn't forget Andy. I long ago had people buy supplements for the child, let Andy come out to confront. As for Celia, she did wrong and should be punished. A married woman should obey her husband. I was just giving minor punishment for major warning. Maya follows me without regard for status, I'm just compensating her with a wedding. Celia is still the madam, what's there to grieve? The old man pointed at him, trembling with anger, unable to speak for a while. Finally, he sighed heavily. Incurable. You're truly incurable. He staggered back a few steps, looking at me with eyes full of guilt. Celia, Grandpa was wrong, shouldn't have agreed to you marrying him. Grandpa harmed you, harmed Andy. What sin has our Liu family committed? The elder's back instantly hunched, the light in his eyes completely extinguished. I knew, after all this, his body couldn't hold on anymore. Back at the villa, Ethan was restless, the old man's words pierced his heart like needles. He called Yara over, tone with a hint of panic. "You're close to Madam, ask her if Andy has been good at the old house these days? Is he picky with food? Go persuade her to bring Andy back. I miss the child." Yara looked at him strangely, voice trembling. "Sir, haven't you understood? The young master is long gone, tomorrow is his first 7 days." Ethan suddenly slapped her face, eyes bloodshot. "What nonsense! Who gave you the guts to curse Andy?" Yara covered her face, laughing miserably. "I'm a servant, but I still have a heart. I truly feel it's not worth it for Madam and the young master. That day you said to prepare anniversary gifts, sent Madam away, the butler and Dr. Miles burst in and took the young master. I was locked outside, heard clearly, they didn't even use anesthesia, just extracted his bone marrow alive. The young master was only 3. He cried, 'Daddy, save me,' but his daddy was upstairs intimate with another woman, his mommy tricked by you to shop. I desperately banged the door begging, Dr. Miles cursed me for meddling. Had me dragged away. Enough. You servant dare slander." Maya hurriedly pulled Ethan's arm. "Ethan, don't believe her, she must be instigated by Celia to harm me." Ethan flung her off, eyes full of bloodshot. "Miles is the one you found. It's you who conspired with him to kill Andy. Ethan, I'll give you twins, triplets later. I'll teach them smarter than Andy." Maya panicked. "Get lost." Ethan covered his ears roaring, "They're not Andy. Andy is the child I waited 10 months for, my heart and liver treasure. Celia, how much pain she must have been in then." He slumped on the sofa, hands shaking uncontrollably, deliberately ignored details surged. Andy's red-rimmed eyes in the last video, Celia's increasingly pale face, and that bowl of medicine he forced her to drink. Ugh, he rushed to the bathroom, retching violently, stomach churning, but nothing came out, only endless chill from soles to spine. Yara, tears streaming, voice shaking, "Sir, the young master's bone's not yet cold, why did you have people gouge his eyes? Not even sparing the eyelids." Ethan suddenly spat blood, face pale as paper. "Impossible. Miles said he used the best anesthesia." After taking the eyes, Andy smiled and waved at him. I secretly followed to the ancestral hall. When the butler and Dr. Miles took the young master from the chamber, I was at the door. Yara shouted hoarsely. The ancestral hall surveillance captured it all. The young master's eye areas were all blood. The guarding monk tried to stop, was pushed down directly. Ethan's shaking hands had bodyguards pull surveillance. The scenes matched Yara's words exactly. Maya hurriedly pounced, grabbing his arm. "Ethan, I didn't know it would be like this. Miles tricked me. You said adopting Andy to me makes him my child, how could I harm him?" Ethan looked at her pitiful face, his gaze starting to waver again. Maya took the chance to lean closer. "Did you forget? Back then, framed by rivals, on death's bed, it was I guarding your bedside. My true heart for you is witnessed by heaven and earth. Sir, look at this." Yara took out the old ledger from my room. "This is the medication record from 6 years ago, Madam, to save you, used family secret formulas to condition your body, guarded you for 49 days, daily brewing soup with precious herbs, these are all documented." Ethan flipped the ledger, each entry recording dates and herb names, with doctor signatures beside. Each page pierced his heart like needles. He finally remembered, during his severe injury coma, it was Celia daily leaning by the bed talking, holding his hand saying, "You'll definitely get better." Regret flooded like tides, tears uncontrollably falling. Watching Andy's pale little face in the surveillance, recalling Celia covered in blood, his heart felt like a chunk was gouged out, pain making breathing impossible. Maya knelt on the ground, desperately kowtowing. "Ethan, listen to my explanation. I was just too afraid of losing you. I never thought to harm Andy." Ethan sneered, eyes with unmelting chill. "Afraid of losing me, so deceive me, kill Andy, ruin Celia? Maya, you made me a executioner worse than a beast." lock her and Miles up. His voice ruthless, investigate. Investigate to death. Don't let any participant go, once clear, send them to prison. Maya screamed heart-rendingly, struggling to pull his pant leg, but bodyguards pressed her down firmly. Ethan retreated a step in disgust, feeling chest stifled breathless, even one more look nauseating. He looked at Yara standing aside, voice hoarse, accompany me home. Rain still falling, wetting his hair and shirt. At the osmanthus garden entrance, that familiar osmanthus scent seemed to linger at the nose, but inside no longer the little figure pouncing calling daddy. Ethan's steps halted at the door, for the first time not daring to push it open. Ethan dazedly pushed open the door. Looking at the pavilion burned to ruins, those flame-swallowed toys and picture books seemed still before eyes. He lunged to the chopped osmanthus tree side, crying loudly like a lost child, "It's my fault. I really was wrong. Celia must hate me to death, Andy's things are gone, I can't even keep a bit of memory." Yara stood aside, expressionless. "Sir, do you know, the day you let the butler lead people to bully the young miss, how severely she was ravaged by them?" She paused, voice ice-cold. "You didn't need to force her to drink sterilization soup. After that day, the doctor said she could never conceive again." "No, impossible." Ethan suddenly looked up, eyes crimson. "How dare they? Celia is my wife, Andy's mom." Yara sneered. "Even you could treat her like that, how would others take her seriously?" Ethan hugged the trunk, shaking head madly, nails digging deep into bark. "I loved her. I was just deceived by Maya, pushed all faults to her. I'm the bastard. I was blind." He suddenly roared, calling bodyguards, "Find all participants. And the butler, make them pay." That day, screams rose and fell in the villa, bloody smell drifting far. But no amount of revenge could bring back the child who smiled calling daddy, nor keep the woman whose heart he shattered. I took Andy's ashes back and buried them in the cemetery. As the car drove away from that city, I completely severed ties with the Liu family. 3 months later, a servant reported, "Young miss, a man has been kneeling at the door, saying he'll wait for you." Through surveillance, I saw the emaciated figure. It was Ethan. He was skeletal, gaze vacant, mouth repeating my name. I had bodyguards drive him away, not to affect my mood. But he, like mad, seizing a chance, ran up the steps, slipped, and rolled down. His leg twisted at a weird angle, pain curling him on ground roaring, "Celia! I was wrong, come back, okay." Bodyguards called an ambulance to take him. As medics carried him, he still grabbed air randomly. Hospital diagnosed mental disorder, sometimes maniacally shouting Andy's name, sometimes hugging a pillow crying, "Sorry Celia." In lucid moments, he'd suddenly become unusually calm. Soon after, old man Leonard passed away in sleep. A week later, caregiver found Ethan suicided at home, deep wrist wounds, beside a blood-soaked family photo. After his death news spread, the already scandal-shaken Liu group completely collapsed. Stock prices limit down continuously, partners cancelled contracts, within a month, bankruptcy liquidation announced. The once glorious business empire, like the family he destroyed himself, vanished in an instant. I sat in the office, phone popping Liu bankruptcy news push. Sunlight-pierced clouds sprinkling on me, those blood and tear-soaked pasts finally became complete past with this man's curtain fall.